Hello, and welcome to the adventures of ARSTY PARSTY. Today's adventure is called Caribbean Cornwallian. Here we go then. ARSTY PARSTY were as bored as shite, which were also when he was shoveling. The day were prime steamy, and ARSTY didn't feel like going anywhere, partly because he were stuck to the ground. Then he remembered he'd run out of parsties, so he slopped off down the Cornwallian village to fetch some. He arrived at Mabel's Parsty House, Cornwallian's premier takeaway establishment. ARSTY ordered 3 parsties, always 3, then waited for them to be made because they were nice and fresh, not like Parsty's underpants. While he were waiting, he noticed a badly smelled poster in the corner of the room. It said, "Win trip to the Caribbean." Oh, ARSTY didn't know where the Caribbean were, but it didn't look the right shade of brown. Soon his parsties were ready, so ARSTY thought no more about it and buggered off back up his hill to have his tea. He arrived at his house and sat down on a little stool he'd made himself, and proceeded to scoff the parsties into his greedy face. He ate the first parsty, he ate the second parsty, but when he ate the third parsty, he nearly choked because there was something in it. ARSTY PARSTY spat it out and rummaged through the contents. What he found was shiny and golden. It were the winning ticket. ARSTY was so excited he ran outside and jumped in the air. Unfortunately, he were to land on the ground. The day of the flight arrived and ARSTY set off on his adventure. He'd never been to an airport before. It were a new experience for him. He went through one of them things what tries to find metal on you. ARSTY PARSTY didn't have any metal on him, but he had loads of turd. The flight were a tad unsettling for ARSTY, owed to turbulence, so much so that the last 2 rows of the aeroplane were full of brown. ARSTY stepped out of the plane and into the fresh Caribbean air. ARSTY weren't used to this, so he farted. He left the airport and headed off in the direction of the nearest beach. He were having a top diddly time. Of course, he were still wearing his dung farming costume. He got some weirdy looks, I can tell you. He found a palm tree and laid down in the shade to try and get some sleep. But just then, a big dog came along and did a big shite in his face. ARSTY began a running, fearing he were going to be blinded. He dived into a nearby swimming pool. It were this moment he realised he couldn't swim. He started making rapid swimming movements in the water, but it didn't seem to do no good. The water were getting thicker and thicker and browner and browner. Fortunately, the lifeguard fished him out. ARSTY made a very smelly fish indeed. Stupid bastard. ARSTY PARSTY had had his fill of the Caribbean and tried to board the next flight to Cornwallia, but it was all booked up. Luckily for ARSTY, they let him sit on the toilet all the way home. Well, at least he could enjoy the turbulence in peace. ARSTY PARSTY didn't like holidays. He preferred good, honest work. The end.